Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor. I'm coming at you to tell you a little piece of my mind. And I have someone with me today. He is put his name into the hat, and I'm just very blessed to be able to have all of the people come on and speak their mind because I know that our kids need the help. And whether or not someone is on the left side or the right side, the one good thing about the Board of Education is that there is no side. It's all about the kids. And so with that, I'm trying my best to get the word out there so that people will go and vote. You have to go and vote. What is it? When is the
I think it's the May 14th.
May 14th. So put it on your calendar if you want to send in your votes or if you want to go the day of. It doesn't matter. We need your votes as much as possible. So I'm not going to waste a bunch of time. I have with me Dr. Jerry Alexandros. I know I beat it up, but he's
It's
going to
okay.
fix it.
Oh,
But
call me Jerry, David.
But tell you what, I want you to introduce yourself to the people, let people know who you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, uh, I've been a biochemist and a lab manager for the last 25 years, doing research for more than 30 years in Frederick. Um, and it's time for me to change and do something else. And I feel that I've been serving the public for a long time now, and I wanted to continue to do that. And I felt that volunteering to work on the Board of Education to help guide the next generation was something that I could do. Um,
Very good. Very good. I mean, to be honest with you, man, most people don't really know what it's going to take to get there. And I'm a firm believer that if your heart's not in it, if your heart's not in it for the kids, it doesn't matter what type of skills you have, you're not going to help out. And so for me, I look for the heart first, and then I
mhm.
listen to the skills. So with that, let me ask this question. My first question to you is the budget. Where do you think there could be some change in the budget so that we can have more money to get better teachers, could get more teachers in, and just make some of the changes that we need to make? Where do you think we can kind of make some changes in the budget?
Uh, well, I don't know how much fat there is to cut out of the school budget because people have been trying for a lot of years and costs just keep going up. Then there is a huge need for not just limping along and repairing some schools, but outright replacing them. I think we're spending a lot of money repairing schools that really should have been retired a long time ago. So that said, we may have to bite the bullet and try to convince the state that, look, we are a rapidly growing county and we need to get more money allocated to us so that we can not only chase, the deficit of what we need, but try to catch up and try to get ahead. That's one thing. Another thing is it's unpopular to ask the county for more money, but we may have to do that as well. Um, I know there's a lot of people out there who say the budget's too big, but if you look at the number of staff and the number of students and the number of sheer buildings that Frederick County Schools has responsibility to work with, you'll realize that in fact that they are actually a bit underfunded, not over. There really isn't a lot of fat to cut.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I looked at the budget. I've been watching the budget. It's pretty much the same. Like it's literally down to the I mean they're cutting more than adding, I would say. And
Yeah,
so it's like how much can you cut without
right.
bringing in more money, you
Well,
know?
my wife was a teacher. She retired about a year and a half ago. And every single year that she was teaching, she needed me to come in and help her fix things in her classroom. Every year she had to buy supplies of her own to bring in. Every year they had to ask the parents for, I mean, come on, essentially donations of cleaning materials. Uh, I know parents have to buy books and things for their kids, but come on, the school should not have to ask parents to supply paper and sponges and spray cleaner. That's kind of ridiculous, and it's doing a disservice to the kids and to the community.
I'll tell you what really frustrates me is I grew up in Texas and I've never heard of a kid having to play sports and they have to pay to in order to play. Now, don't get me wrong, if they can't afford it, they don't normally have to pay, but it's just getting so ridiculous that you have to pay a certain amount of money for the fee, then they want the money towards food to feed them after school. And it's just like so much money that it's like, why can't we figure this out? Like, it
Yeah,
can't be that much money that we can't add this in to, because people are having to raise money, all of this, when they should be coaching. You know,
yeah,
they shouldn't have to be trying to get all of this money raised so that the kids are fed so that they could play a game.
yeah,
That's just ridiculous.
yeah.
That's just my thoughts. You know what I
I,
mean?
I agree. And look, it's more than just sports. In some schools, they don't have up-to-date textbooks. The books are literally falling apart. And in the school building where my wife taught, there were rats and they were chewing the books over the summer. And okay, look, the school moved out of that building into a good one, right? But that's one school. There are other schools that are in equally decrepit condition, and we just can't have that. It's unsafe.
What do you think about a parent who is looking for vouchers where they can say, you know what, I want to just go ahead and pick where my kid goes to school, and the money should just follow the kid. What do you think about that?
Uh, I I don't like vouchers. I'm sorry, it's going to be unpopular with some folks, but the way to fix a system that needs help is not to bleed it dry. Okay. You can't pull money out of a system that we already know needs help, that needs repair, that needs new buildings, and let people take thousands of dollars away from it with each student. The other thing is, in a lot of cases, we have already seen other states have voucher programs where the parents take their kids out and they bring them to some private school. Okay. And then you find out that school is underperforming, or that school is overpaying the administrator, or paying dividends, or paying a CEO ridiculous amounts of money. Sometimes, even if it's a nonprofit, paying people, the top people ridiculous amounts of money, the teachers not enough. And then you find out years later they're not accountable. All right. That they're not doing as well. What's the point? Okay. There are charter public schools in Frederick. Okay. Those I completely support, but those aren't set up with vouchers. All right. It gives parents choice. They can bring their kid to other schools. In fact, those schools are making do with a lot less money than public schools because they don't get building support. Okay. But the vouchers themselves, most of the time, it is essentially a subsidy for upper middle class parents to bring their kids to fancy schools and drain the school system. and I'm just not for them.
Well, thank you for that opinion. And the next question I have is based on homeschools. A lot of the homeschoolers, parents, they're really watching the election because they really want to know, like, they feel like they're just left out on their own. And I want to ask, what would you do to help out with the homeschool population?
The question is, why is a public school system responsible for supporting people who've opted out of a public school system?
Well, sometimes they like, for instance, the homeschoolers, they still have to submit some type of paperwork to the schools. And a lot of times their kids, they feel like the ones that want to play sports or they just feel like they're just left out because they have chose to homeschool their children, and they just feel like they're not getting support even though they are still underneath the Frederick County public school system for some of
Um, I don't know that they're underneath the public school system as much as everybody who is teaching kids has to show that the kids are actually, learning.
them. Yeah,
They have to be able to, you know, you're this isn't the 1800s where somebody can teach their kid how to be a farmer and do basic math and basic reading. Okay. We're bringing up kids in the 21st century. All right. And if a homeschooler or a private school or whomever outside of the school system is showing that their kids are learning at the same level as in public schools, fine. That is doing the kid a proper service. But you can't just make it unaccountable, and you can't just say Scouts honor my kid's learning, right?
yeah,
That's why there has to be some paperwork. In order to participate in sports, I've heard some arguments where people say, well, I took my kid out of the school system because I don't believe in vaccines. All right. I'm sorry, I'm a scientist. I don't just believe in vaccines, I know they work. Okay. If you're going to be around other kids, you have to be following the same standards in terms of public health and safety. All right. It's not, they say parental choice, right?
mhm.
Well, okay, it's parental choice to take the kids out. It is not parental choice to take them out and put them in and take them out and put them in where you want to without having some accountability in terms of health as well as education.
Okay. A lot of people are frustrated about the special education department.
Yeah,
Been under scrutiny. I mean, put in the news at even a national level. What do
yeah,
you
that was
think?
a scandal.
It just, it was, it, I, Me personally, I just think that people were just trying to do the best that they could, and
Mhm.
you can't do the best that you can when it comes to special education. I think that it's the IEPs have to be looked at, addressed every day.
Yeah,
Every individual that sees or in that works with them, you know. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Can I say I completely agree with you? And I know this because my son, who's now in school, now in college, he gave me permission to talk about him, right?
Okay.
Because he was getting IEPs, he was getting special ed help occasionally, and I saw the good, bad, and the ugly of it. All right. Some folks were checking off the boxes and not really doing a lot to help him. Some worked their tails off and treated him well and treated him just like any other kid. And he learned from them. He not only learned from them, he thrived with them. But the biggest problem he had is that there were too few special ed people to cover too many kids. All right. And one problem I think there is in the Frederick County system is that special ed teachers are allocated more based on the size of the school than the size of the special ed population of students in the school.
Mm.
Okay. And you need more teachers. You need an adequate number of special ed teachers per student that needs the help. You need to give teachers enough time to not only write up an IEP and check off the boxes, but you need to give them enough time and help to actually help the kids. And it's hard to do that when the student to teacher ratio is too high. All right. Right now they're spread so thin. And then I know this from not only my kid, but my wife, the teachers are spread so thin, they barely have a few minutes per student per day. All right, in some classes. That's not enough, for individual attention. And then they get IEPs on top of that. And those kids need even more help and deserve it. But you're not going to get it unless you give the teachers and the special ed people enough support that they can support the kids.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Um, I have another question, and this comes up all the time, is that um, teachers are kind of feeling overwhelmed. They feel like they are just like you were talking about your wife. I mean, they just have so many duties. They're pushing so much paperwork that they feel like they just are drowning. And
Oh
then
yeah.
to add to that, the kids sometimes they feel like they're not being supported when they have disciplinary problems in the classroom. What do you think you might could bring to the table to help first with the overwhelming feeling that the teachers are feeling, and then the disciplinary problems that are happening in the schools?
I understand why there's so much testing in schools, and I am trying to address your point.
Yeah.
A lot of times teachers are required to be recording data, all right, about each and every kid each and every day. That takes a lot of time. And then every so often the school system changes that system and they have to learn something new. And then it changes again. All right. That's the school system putting a big burden on the teachers, and they only have so much time in a day. Um, on top of that, they're planning lessons, they're writing lessons, then they're teaching, then they're grading. And my wife has never graded in school in her life. She's always brought home piles of papers, graded them on her own time or over the weekend, and brought them back, and then recorded them or recorded them, you
Hmm.
know, and uploaded. However, but it is a huge burden, and I think a lot of parents don't realize just quite how much that time takes. The newest school contract gave teachers more planning time, but they didn't give teachers any training time. They didn't give, or enough, excuse me. There is some. They didn't give teachers any grading time, for example. That's all off the books on their own time. Um, and I don't really know how to address that. I don't really know how to fix that unless the school system again changes the student to teacher ratio so that the teachers can actually keep up with the number of students that they have. All
Because you
right.
can get overwhelmed. They can get
Absolutely.
overwhelmed just by having 30 kids in the class. And if they only had 20, I know when I teach at the university, I can feel the difference between a 25 student class and a 18. Like I can feel it because that's an extra 45 minutes of reading papers for those 7 students.
Right.
I got
More more than that, the students have more time to participate per student. In a class size of 25, sometimes 30, all right? Some kids get missed entirely. Maybe they want it that way, but they don't participate and they lose out. They don't realize it right then, but they're the ones that are losing out.
So what about
And they're also losing out when you mentioned discipline. Okay.
yeah.
Students are losing out when one kid is disruptive and the teacher has to focus 100% of their attention on that kid. I think in a lot of cases, the disruption is because the kid has a problem and doesn't know how to express themselves. All right. And I think students, schools, excuse me, need to have somebody in a school, not just send them to the principal, but send them to somebody that can actually deal with a student who's having a problem and help them, not punish them, not discipline them, not beat them or whatever, but actually help them. And then send them back to class so that they're ready to learn. All right. I am not, look at, look at me. I'm an older guy. All right. My parents were old fashioned. My dad thought discipline was pulling his belt off. Okay.
Yeah.
That didn't work. I mean, eventually he and I reached an accommodation. All right. We loved each other. All right. But that wasn't the right way to go about it. And the whole spare the rod, spoil the child thing doesn't mean what people think. You
Mhm.
know, you
Mhm.
don't beat kids into being good kids. All right. You just make them angry and hurt. And that's not the way to do it.
Very good. Um, when whenever you think about people have been kind of going back and forth on the policy 400s and especially policy 443 where it talks about children of different genders being able to play sports with other genders, the people that have consider themselves one sex or the other. Do you have any opinions on how we can address this in Frederick County, even though we know that it's a national problem, state problem? How can we address it with our community?
I I think that a lot of that is blown out of proportion. Okay. It's a political culture war issue. And if you ask the kids, 99% of the time, they don't care. All right. Most of the time, they care that they get along with their friends. And they don't care if their friends, there's a boy or a girl or what have you. Okay. They're going to call their friends by whatever pronoun they want. They're going to call their friends by whatever name they want. And that's okay. And you know what that's called when it's an adult? When I call you David, all right,
Hmm.
it's respect. Okay. Calling somebody by the name they want and pronoun and however is just a matter of respect. All right. And I think we should respect the kids enough to say that's okay.
What do you
And
think, really quick,
yeah,
what do you think about, like, some parents are kind of frustrated that the school is able to keep secrets from the parents in certain situations. Like there was one kid that was uh, called himself a different name than what was at the house, and they were not the parent was not notified of this type of situation. What do you think about that situation?
I think it's really sad that a parent is not trusted by the student. Okay. Um, it's not the school keeping secrets so much as the school respecting the kid.
Hmm.
And if the kid doesn't feel safe having the parent know something about them, I'm sorry, that's not the school causing a problem. All right. That's a problem between the parent and the kid. And hopefully they'll work it out.
I got you. I got you. So there's 17 people running, and you're one of the 17.
A lot more than I expected, but here we are.
I would have never expected 17 people running, but there's a lot to sift through. Why should someone pick you as one of the one of for their vote?
Okay. Um, First of all, I believe that what we are doing in any school system is more than just educating kids and giving them the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic. Okay. What we are doing is bringing up the next generation of leaders in our state and in our country. In 20 or 30 years, these are the people that are going to be running our world. All right. So we need to bring them up like that. All right. With the capabilities of functioning in a 21st century society, with critical thinking skills so that they can sort fact from fiction. All right. So that they won't be fooled by scammers and con artists. All right. They deserve that. They deserve to be able to go out into the world understanding that they're respected, that they're cared for, whether they're going out to be a scientist like myself, or a singer like my son, or a teacher like my wife. We need all of them. Okay. And so the school system needs to be not only understanding that they have to do the basics, but the school system has to understand that we need to do all that we can for our kids. Um, what do I bring to the school board? Um, in addition to my background as a scientist, um, I've got a PhD, so that I've been in more schools than most, and I have experienced the good and the bad, and I still love it. Okay. I love learning. I want our kids to love learning. I have experience with being on a board of directors before. I was president and vice president of Spring Ridge Homeowners Association, Spring Ridge Conservancy. So I've already had experience in having to deal with budgets of millions of dollars, okay, and making compromises and making choices and listening to folks with different opinions. I do that in my day job, not only as a scientist, but as a lab manager. All right. I understand that I have to deal with not only other scientists, but I have to deal with repair people coming in from companies, salespeople, the repair people within our facility who come in and do their job so that our lab is functional and clean and has the garbage taken out, and has the supplies brought in, you know. And I've listened to all of them, and all of them have something to contribute, not just their hands and their jobs, but their ideas. And that has to be true for working with teachers, with administrators, with outside vendors. And that sort of thing is essential. Okay. You can't have somebody whose idea is my way or the highway, because that doesn't work. It never does. And you need somebody on a board like this who has some kind of experience. Um, with all due respect to the youngest people running, um, they say they want to bring student representation to the board. The board already has a student representative. All right. Um, and I've been a student, and I've listened to students, and it's good as far as it goes, but you need more.
Hey, well, you know what? I wish you the best.
Thank you, sir.
I know how hard this is, and putting your ideas, putting your heart on the line, for the children. I commend you.
Thank
And
you.
and I couldn't do it. I just don't have the time. But if you have the time, I'm glad because
Well, the campaigning turns out to be an entire other job. It's a bit more than I expected, but I'm going to do my best. And if I get elected, I'm going to be retired as of the end of the year. And so I'm going to have time to put in as much time as the school board needs from me,
Good for
if they
you.
need me, if they'll take me.
Hey, good for you. Well, I thank you for coming on, and I thank you for putting your heart out there. And it sounds like you spoke straight from the heart. Um, um, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I mean, if I don't know something, I'll tell you. If I disagree with you, I'll tell you, but I'll have the respect to tell you why. And that's true in an interview, and it's going to be true every day.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thank you, David, for the opportunity.
Thank you.